Hey, podcast friends. This is Dr. Steve Hewlett with the podcast Simple Healthy Choices for Weight Loss, where every week we help people who have realized that as their health has been declining over the years, the number of medications they are being prescribed is increasing. We realize that even though the path to better health and a medication-free life may be very simple, it definitely is not easy. We truly want to help you change your habits and change your thoughts about what true health nutrition is. And now we can. We are so excited to provide you our new online Thrive Naturally Transformation course. This course is complete with 10 to 15 minute videos that will not only walk you through changing your home and mental environment, but also teach you how exactly different foods we put in our mouths can have devastatingly horrible effects on the body and how some have great healing ability. If you'd like to enroll in our new Thrive Naturally Transformation course, please go to our website, drstevehewlett.com, and click on the Work With Us tab at the top of the page. We truly are here to help you get off medications and start living the vibrant, pain-free life that you would love to live. Hey, welcome back, podcast friends. Now, in today's episode, this is a question that I get asked a lot. The question is, do you have to exercise in order to lose weight? Okay, first thing I want to make very, very, very clear. When most people say that they want to lose weight, what they mean is they want to lose fat, not necessarily weight. And hopefully, as I go through this podcast, you'll understand what I meant by that. But basically, if you don't eat anything at all, you just totally stop eating, you will lose weight. Okay, why? Why do you lose weight? Is because your body needs nutrients. It's got to have nutrients. And there's certain nutrients that your body doesn't make. You have to get it from the food you eat. So if you don't eat any food, your body will start eating itself. Okay. So because it started with nutrients, and we'll talk about that. But basically there's a saying, and it's not exactly true, but you get the gist. But they say that you can go 3 minutes without oxygen. You can go 3 days without water, and you can go 3 weeks without food. Okay. It's not exactly true, but you get the gist of how important different things are. And the reason why I bring this up is because when you eat normally, well, not normally like most people eat where they're eating carbohydrates all through the day, but if you're a good, healthy person and you're eating well, what you do is your body, and this talks about intermittent fasting and everything, and keeping your insulin levels low. So you only eat in like 6 to 8 hour time period, and the rest of the time you keep your insulin levels low. The reason why that's important is because there's a thing where your body there are thousands of different chemical processes going in your body. You're always making all this metabolic waste. You have cells that are dying all the time and being regenerated all the time. Your GI tract, your blood cells, your skin, your hair, your nails, all the chemical reactions going on. So our body needs a lot of energy all through the day. Okay. So one thing that happens when you eat normally is when you live your insulin levels low, there's a thing called autophagy. Autophagy, auto means self, and phagy means to eat. And that basically means you're eating yourself. And this is a good thing. Autophagy is a good thing if you keep it within regulations. But basically what that does is all the metabolic waste that allows your cells time to get the metabolic waste out of your cells. And it lets you get rid of all the dead cells that are there. You've got to get rid of all this stuff. So there's things that your body is trying to get rid of, these byproducts, tries to get them out of your system. And that's normal. That's healthy. Get rid of the dead cells and rejuvenate with new cells. However, if you don't eat anything at all, this is called autocannibalism. This means you're not giving your body any nutrients, and it needs nutrients in order to grow, heal, thrive, and survive. If you do not eat the nutrients your body needs, your body will start eating itself. And this is not good. This is the bad thing. So what do we mean? What nutrients are we saying you need? And I've said this before. There's 5 nutrients that you have to put in your mouth in order to give your body the vital nutrients. You have to give it amino acids. You have to give it fatty acids. You have to give it vitamins, minerals, and water. Those are the things that your body has to have. So amino acids, if you haven't heard any of my other podcasts, an amino acid, all protein is broken up to its basic building block. Think of like little Lego blocks. And the basic building block of a protein is called an amino acid. And if you take all the protein from all the plants and all the animals and you break them all down to their basic little building block of an amino acid, there's only a total of 20 different building blocks, 20 different amino acids. But from these 20 amino acids, our body can make up to 20,000 different proteins. And some of these proteins can be up to 27,000 amino acids long. So we need lots of amino acids. We need lots of protein because everything in our body is made out of protein. Our bones, our muscles, our skin, all our internal organs, they're all made out of protein. So we need lots of protein every single day. Okay. Our muscles are a big thing where we have protein, but this isn't storage. That's just where our muscles are. That's what we need. So if we do not give our bodies enough protein, our bodies will steal it from our muscles because our bodies need the protein to make different hormones like insulin. It needs it to save our vital organs, and our body knows what's vital. So it will save its vital organs by stealing the amino acids, stealing the protein from your muscles. So your muscle, you end up actually muscle wasting. Okay. So you're losing weight because you're losing muscle. And this is not what you want to do. The other thing you need are fatty acids. Like I said, on the amino acids, of those 20 total amino acids, 9 of those are considered essential amino acids, meaning your body doesn't make, and you have to get it from the food that you eat. So you have to eat protein. The other thing that you have to eat is fat and cholesterol. You've got to eat this because that's what helps increase your HDLs, which is your good cholesterol, which is produced in the intestines. But we use fat for all kinds of things in our body. We use it for temperature regulation. We use it for cushion for all of our organs. We use every single cell in our body has a fatty cell membrane. Okay. So every time we're rejuvenating new cells, we have to have fat in order to do that. Then a lot of hormones are made out of this, out of cholesterol and out of fat. So we need it just for our hormones to be able to produce, like vitamin D and cortisol. Okay, these are important hormones that we have to have. And obviously, fat is also used for energy. That's the big thing. And then vitamins, minerals, and water. But since we're talking about losing weight, we're actually talking about energy. And what we're talking about is mainly we're talking about glucose and we're talking about fatty acids, fat. So both of those are used for energy. Now, when you're talking about some of these silly diets that are out there, like the cabbage diet or any of these diets that have you just eat just like plants and nothing else but plants, you are malnourishing yourself. You're not giving yourself anywhere near the fat that you need because you're not going to get that from plants or, these cabbage diets or whatever that's out there. You've got to have fat in whatever you're eating, and you have to have protein. And yes, you can get protein from plants, but you have to eat a lot of plants in order to get the amount of protein that you need versus something like a piece of meat that has a ton of protein in a very small amount. And I've talked about that in past podcasts. But what happens when you go on these starvation diets, what you're doing is you're causing your body to auto-cannibalize. You're causing your body to eat itself. So yes, it will, if you're not putting anything in your mouth, you will burn your fat out because it needs the energy. It's got to burn your fat out. But it's also going to be burning your muscles. It's going to eat away your muscles because it needs the amino acids. So if you're on something like even Ozempic or all these stupid medications that are out there that have so many, over 66 adverse effects, including having your stomach removed, having part of your intestines removed, having your colon removed, having your gallbladder removed, having chronic constipation, having thyroid cancer. I mean, all these adverse effects that you see with these GLP-1s, and all they're doing is making it so you're not hungry. So when you're not hungry, you're not eating. When you're not eating, you're not giving your body the amino acids and the fatty acids and everything that it needs. So your body starts eating itself. And they've already shown that most of the weight loss that's done with people who are on these GLP-1 agonists is from muscle loss. So they're actually eating their own body. I've talked about this before. That's the craziest thing to do. You've got to give your body the nutrients. And if you just give up meat and fat, that's going to keep you feeling full a lot longer also. And you're giving your body the nutrients. So you're doing it the healthy way, not this way that you're actually eating yourself, the auto-cannibalism. So that's the difference. So it's not about losing weight. It's about losing fat. You do not want to lose your muscles because you don't have excess muscles. We don't have excess muscles. Oh, I've got too many muscles. And that's important. We need our muscles. So we need them for strength. We need it for support. We need it for balance. We need it for movement. I mean, all these things that are so important, especially as you get older. That's a lot of times why elderly people get put in the hospital because they trip and they fall. And this a lot of times is because they don't have the balance. They don't have the lower body strength. They don't have good core support. So yes, you need your muscles, but you don't have excess. However, on fat, we have lots of excess fat, and we didn't used to. We had plenty of excess fat, but nothing like we have today because now people eat carbohydrates all through the day, and all those carbohydrates get turned into fat. And we'll go through that. But basically, when you look at the excess fat, just so you know, again, we're talking about energy. In 1 gram of fat, there's 9 calories of energy in 1 gram. Okay. So there's 454 grams in 1 pound. So 1 pound of fat has 4,000 calories. So if you're 10 pounds overweight, that means that you have 40,000 extra calories just sitting on your body. And because you're overweight, what got you to become overweight is also what's keeping you from being able to burn that fat out of there, even though you have so much on board. So remember, 1 pound of fat, 4,000 calories. That's going to be important. So how does this compare to working out? Okay, because this whole thing is about, do you need to exercise? One, when you work out, okay, and obviously there's a range, but from the minimum, if you do a 60-minute weightlifting exercise, but you're not lifting a lot of heavy weights, you're just kind of there, you can burn around 180 calories. If you are really in the gym and you're up there and you're pumping out a lot of iron, then you could burn up to like 440 calories in 1 hour. Okay. 440 calories in a very strenuous weightlifting 60-minute session, 440 calories, to where for every pound of fat, you have 4,000 calories of fat. Okay. This is all going to play into it here pretty soon. But why do we? Our body is very good about keeping things, homeostatic, keeping everything kind of the same. Why does it allow us to just keep on accumulating fat over fat over fat and accumulating all this energy that we don't need? Okay. There's one reason. There's only one thing that is directly related to fat, getting fatter, and one thing that is directly related to eating your fat. Okay. And that one thing is insulin. When your insulin levels are high, it forces your body to store fat. You cannot burn it. When your insulin levels are low, it forces you to eat your own fat. The fat's coming out of your fat cells and you're using that for energy. Okay. So that's what you want. You want to keep your insulin levels low because, again, when you're losing weight, you're not actually talking about losing weight. You're talking about losing fat. The only way that you're going to lose fat is to keep your insulin levels low so you can burn that fat out of your fat cells. And I'll go into this in quite a bit of detail in just a little bit. Okay. And I actually explained all this as far as why your insulin, when your insulin levels are high, it forces you to store fat. And when it's low, it forces you to burn your own fat. I explained that whole thing in episode number 34 on what determines whether we store fat or burn it for energy. So I highly recommend you go back and listen to that, episode 34, because it really explains a lot. So what happens when your insulin levels are high? Okay. And again, you're going to learn all this in that podcast. When your insulin levels are high, first, that means you put glucose in your body because you put carbohydrates in your body, which is a plant-based food. So anything plant-based is made out of carbohydrates, which means glucose. So anytime you eat plant-based food, your glucose levels go high and you make your insulin levels go high. When your insulin levels go high, okay, it pushes glucose into your muscle cells. And like we just said, it pushes fat into your fat cells. And besides pushing glucose in your muscle cells, it also pushes glucose into your glucose storage cell, which is called glycogen. And in glycogen, you have 10% of your liver and 1% of every single skeletal muscle has glycogen stores. These are glucose stores. So when your insulin levels are high, it's a storage hormone. So it stores glucose in your muscle cells, stores glucose in its glycogen stores because it's trying to fill up its glycogen stores. And then all the excess that you don't use, that you're not burning, it takes all that excess glucose, turns it into fat in the form of triglycerides. And then because your insulin levels are low, it pushes because your insulin levels are high, it pushes those triglycerides in the fat cells. So just the fact that you keep your insulin levels high, you cause your body to turn all this excess glucose into fat, and you also cause your body to store the fat. Okay, that's what happens. When your insulin levels are low, okay, when they're low, that causes you to burn fat out of your fat cells. Okay, so you're burning fat out of your fat cells, but it also pushes fat into your muscle cells because your body knows that is where you're actually supposed to be. You getting your energy is from fat. So as far as energy, the best way to think about this is you have energy in your blood and you have energy in storage. Okay, so you need to think about both of those. Both glucose and fat are used for energy. And the way your body does it, it's going to get the energy. All it knows it needs energy. It's going to use whatever it has there, kind of. Okay, so first thing it's going to do is going to take all the energy out of the blood. And after it does that, it's going to take all the energy out of your storage. Okay, so when you start working out, okay, first thing it's going to take the glucose, and it's always going to prefer the glucose over the fat because glucose is much easier to burn. It's not a very clean burn, but it's easier. So first it's going to take glucose out of the blood. Then it's going to take fat out of the blood. Then it's going to take glucose out of its glycogen storage cells. Remember, 10% of the liver and 1% of each skeletal muscle. And then it's going to take fat out of the fat cells. So glucose from the blood, then fat from the blood, then glucose from the storage, then fat from the storage. That's how your body utilizes energy. And again, I kind of talked about this in episode 35 on which is the best energy source, carbohydrates or fat. But just so you know, let's just look at glucose for the first. Okay, if you're using glucose as your energy source first, if you look at all the glucose that's in your bloodstream right now, you have an average of about 2 teaspoons, 1 teaspoon of glucose, 2 teaspoons of sugar. Remember, sugar is sucrose. That's half glucose, half fructose. That was in past podcasts. But basically, you have 4 grams of glucose. Okay, so equivalent about 2 teaspoons of sugar. So there's 4 calories for every gram of glucose. Remember, there's 9 calories for 1 gram of fat. There's only 4 for glucose. So that means if you have 4 grams of glucose going around in your bloodstream, you only have 16 calories of active energy floating around in your bloodstream at any one time. But then when you look at storage, you have, remember the glycogen storage, that's how you store glucose. It's like little glucose bricks. 10% of your liver and 1% of each skeletal muscle. But the skeletal muscles can only be used. The glycogen in each skeletal muscle is only good for that one skeletal muscle. Okay, not everything. So as far as the glycogen, these glucose bricks, is stored form of glucose in your liver only stores about 100 grams of glucose. So this is about 400 calories. Remember, 1 gram is 4 calories. So about 400 calories in there. And then all your muscle glycogen, you have about an additional 400 grams there. So it's about 1,600 calories of stored glucose energy in your muscles. So altogether in your stores, you have 400 calories in your liver. You have about 1,600 calories in your muscle. So you have 2,000 calories. Now remember, 2,000 calories is all you have. Now this is going to get you through a good hard workout because remember, in a good hard workout, you're only burning about 440 calories. Okay, so that could be enough, but all the excess that you have, again, this is going to be turning into triglycerides and it's going to be stored. Okay, now as far as fat, let's look at the fat. Remember, there are only 4 grams of glucose in the blood. Fat totally depends on how much you have in your blood. If you are eating like carnivore or keto, one of these good healthy nutrition plans where you keep your carbohydrates low, that also is keeping your insulin levels low. And when you do that, you're using fat for your energy source. So your blood fat, your LDLs may be elevated, quite a bit. They could be over 300. If you're really healthy, you could have LDL levels high because you're using that for your energy. So you have all these fat mobiles going around, putting the fat in all the different places it needs. I remember fat's used for a lot of things: temperature regulation, cushion, all the cell membranes, energy. I mean, there's so many things that fat's used for. So it makes sense that you're going to have all this fat floating around in your system. Okay, so now you have the fat that's in your blood, and then you have the stored fat. And remember, 1 pound is equivalent to 4,000 calories. So you start putting all this pounds of fat on, And what happens is the reason you're putting it on is because you're eating carbohydrates. Carbohydrates keep your insulin levels high, and they force you to turn glucose into fat and then store that fat. So that's the whole thing, is you're keeping your insulin levels too high for too long because you eat carbohydrates all through the day. So as far as how much can be stored, that's where everybody's different. It all depends on how your cellular makeup is. But no matter what, you only have so many subcutaneous stores in general. And once those stores are filled, now you start storing all this fat around your visceral organs. And that's when all the damage really starts happening, is when you get all this fat around your organs. So when people look at obese people, they just think of the fat on the outside that they see. You've got to look at the fat on the inside. That is where all the damage is. If you've got fat on the outside, you've got fat on the inside. And again, all you have to do is measure around your waist or around your stomach at the biggest part, up around your belly button. Measure that, and that amount in inches should be equal to or less than half your height. If it is more than half your height, you are storing fat around your internal organs, and this is not a good thing to do. So the whole question, do you have to exercise to lose weight? No, you do not. And remember, you're not losing weight, you're losing fat. So in order to lose fat, if you're doing it just by exercising, you will never get to your fat stores. You're going to burn the glucose out of your blood, then the fat out of your blood, and then the glucose out of your stores. Unless you're something like a marathon runner, that's totally different. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, what happens there. So no, you do not have to exercise. In fact, exercising can be hard on you. And I'll talk about that in just a little bit also. Now, exercise is very important. I'm not saying that a bit. Exercise is very important. Like I said, that's what helps build your muscles, especially if you're doing resistance training, that's going to build your muscles. If you're doing cardio, that's going to help, strengthen your heart and your blood vessels. And so you need both of those. Okay. You need to be able to exercise this way. However, and remember, it's because you need your muscles. You need it for strength and stability and balance and flexibility and everything, just actual moving. And just moving is so important. You have to just move. And I did a whole podcast on this too, but in episode number 29, talked about why is moving your body important for infection, nutrition, and swelling. You have to move. In fact, our next two podcasts I'm going to be doing is going to be on that exact topic, just how important moving is. So should you work out? Okay, so to lose weight, you can starve yourself to death and decrease all of the nutrients that's coming in. Like if you're using Ozempic or one of these silly diets that don't give you any nutrients, yes, you will lose weight, but you're mainly losing muscle. Okay, you will be losing some fat also because your body's got to get energy from somewhere. So that's one way. If you work out, you will build muscles. And when you build muscles, you're building energy cells because you have a lot of mitochondria that it produces a lot of energy and it takes a lot of energy. So building muscle cells is actually a very good thing to do just for your overall health and your overall maintenance of body strength and everything else. However, if you're not used to working out, this is not the time to do that. And I'll explain that in just a little bit. But as far as your body weight set, it's called the body weight set point. And I did a podcast on this also, episode number 4. It's not about eat less calories and exercise more. Okay. And basically, just real quick, what your body weight set point is that weight that everybody has their own body weight set point. And you know what that weight is, because that's that weight. When you get on the scales, you're either up 5 or 10 pounds or you're down 5 or 10 pounds. But you know about what your weight normally is. And your body works very hard to keep it that way. Whether it's healthy or not, that's the weight because of your nutrition and your activity. That's where your body feels comfortable. However, your body wants to keep you there. So if you start to lose weight, your body does 2 things to try to get your weight back up. First, it makes you very hungry. So you're losing weight. Your body's like, no, you're losing way too much weight. You need to eat so you get your body weight back up. So it makes you ravenously hungry. The other thing that happens when you start to lose weight is your body slows your metabolism down. Your body can adjust its metabolism up and down by 30%. So your metabolism is way more than just exercise. Exercise is just a tiny bit of your metabolism. Okay. But what happens is if you start to lose weight, your body wants you back up, your weight back up. So it slows down your metabolism so it can get your weight back up. Okay. Why is this important? Because if somebody is not used to working out, they're not used to doing it, and then all of a sudden they go in, somebody says, oh, you just need to keep eating the same crap that you've been eating. They got you fat, just eat less of it and exercise. This is what happens. You start exercising, you start losing weight. Your body, like I just said, is going to make you ravenously hungry. When you're ravenously hungry, if you don't change the type of food that you eat, you're going to eat that same crap, that same carbohydrates and everything, and that makes you even more hungry. So now you have your hormones making you hungry, and you have the carbohydrates, which when you eat carbohydrates, it makes you more and more hungry. Food companies know this. That's why they put carbohydrates in everything, so you can keep buying their food and keep making them rich while you get sicker. So carbohydrates will make you hungry, and I've talked about that in past podcasts. And so now what you have to do is when you are hungry, okay, what you should do is eat meat and fat. Don't eat the carbohydrates, eat meat and fat. Meat and fat will keep you from being hungry. That's going to help balance out that hormonal thing. The other thing is it's going to make you very tired. Remember, it's going to slow your metabolism down. So this is the worst time for you to exercise. If you're not used to exercising, this is the worst time you could do it, because as you start to lose weight, you're going to be very tired. Now you're starting an exercise program that you've never done before, and now you're dead tired. So you're beat to death. You have no energy. You're starving to death. You hate it, and you go off the diet, and you come back. And since your metabolism has been slowed down and your hunger's been speeded up, you actually end up gaining more weight than you did to begin with. Okay, that's what I want to get you away from. That's a roller coaster that ends. That's why I hate the word diet. Diet's like holding your breath underwater. You'll do it for a little bit, but eventually you're going to come up, and when you do, you're going to gasp for all the air you can. So what you should do is not exercise. If you're obese and you're not used to exercising, don't do it now. As you change your food and you start eating more animal-based product and stay away from the plant-based, especially ultra-processed food and the plants that grow below the ground, as you start doing that, you're going to start burning the fat out of your fat cells, because you're keeping your insulin levels low, because fat doesn't affect your insulin levels low at all. Protein does just a little bit. Carbohydrates is what makes your insulin go up. So you keep your insulin levels low. You burn the fat out of your fat cells. You start losing weight, but you're keeping your muscle because you're eating the protein, and you're keeping your fat. You're keeping your omega-3 and your omega-6, your essential fatty acids. You're keeping that because you're eating good animal meat with animal fat, and that's all good. So you're giving your body, and all the vitamins and minerals, you're giving your body all the nutrients it needs, keeping your insulin levels low. And so all you're doing is burn fat out of your fat cells. When you do this, you start feeling a lot better. And it's not just burn the fat out of your fat cells, it's burn the fat off your organs also. So this is why you can get off a lot of the medications that you're on, if not all of them. So you start making your body heal again. So as you're starting to lose weight, you change the food, you keep your insulin levels low, you don't exercise until you start feeling more energy. And you will. As you start losing weight, you're going to have so much energy on board. That's what you're going to want to do, is burn that energy. So you're going to want to exercise. And then it just really gets easier and easier and better as far as the weight loss. So do you exercise when you're trying to lose weight? If you are used to working out, definitely keep doing it. If you're not used to working out, this is not the time to do it. Wait until you start losing your fat. And as you lose your fat, you're going to feel better and energized that way. So just to kind of put this all into perspective, let's go through a workout. Let's go through like a marathon, okay, marathon runner. And say this marathon runner is like most people, and they're carbohydrate burners. That's what they use for their energy, okay? We're supposed to use our fat and our carbohydrates, our glycogen stores and glucose. That's only supposed to be for our fight or flight energy. That's why we have such little energy on board. We only have 2,000 calories on board through glucose, okay? Because that's not supposed to be our main energy source. Fat is. So, but if you eat carbs all the time, you keep your insulin levels all the time, you're storing fat all the time, and you're using glucose for energy source, this is what happens. So you're running and you eat these carbohydrates, okay? Especially runners, like marathon runners, who they carb load. They'll go and they'll eat a bunch of carbs the night before a run because they're trying to put all this glucose in their cells because they don't have a lot in their storage. So you eat these carbs, your blood glucose goes up because all carbohydrates, which means plant-based food, it has a building block of glucose. So anytime you eat carbs, your glucose levels go up. When your glucose levels go up, your insulin levels go up. When your insulin goes up, remember that pushes glucose into your muscles where these runners are wanting it, so it can burn that for energy. But it's also pushing glucose into your into your glycogen stores. So it's trying to fill up your glycogen stores and putting all this energy into your muscles. Then as you keep on working out, all of a sudden your blood glucose starts to drop because your muscles are using all of it. As it uses it and your glucose levels go down, your insulin levels come down. When that happens, you start tearing down the glycogen, those little glucose bricks, because when your insulin level is low, that stimulates your glucose, your glycogen to break down and put more glucose in the bloodstream. So now you're getting glucose out of your storage cells. But remember, you don't have that much in your storage cells. So if you're weightlifting, you'll be able to take care of it just with what's in storage. But if you're not, and you're doing this marathon run, now you start depleting the glucose out of your muscle cells and you start depleting the glucose out of your stores also. So now what happens, and this is what happens, is you're used to that. You're eating all these carbohydrates. And that's why these people, these carb burners for marathons, as they run the marathon, they're constantly eating drinking these glucose drinks all through the marathon because they have to keep replenishing that glucose because they don't have enough on board in their storage. Okay, so that's what they're doing. So they keep replenishing this glucose, but when they don't, their insulin levels drop. And when the insulins drop or the insulins increase because you're putting on this glucose, then all of a sudden the glucose drops, so your insulin drops, but now you don't have any more stores. And this is what the marathon runners call hitting a wall. They've been running, and all of a sudden they hit a wall. They have no energy. And that's because they've run out of all their glucose stores, all their glucose. They don't have anything else. However, a lot of runners know that if you can pass through that wall, go through that wall, you get like a second wind. What that second wind is now your glucose is gone, so your insulin levels are dropped, and now you can start burning fat out of your fat cells, and now you have more energy to give yourself, okay? So that's what happens with glucose. That's why they have to continuously replenish themselves. Now let's look at a carnivore, okay? If you're a carnivore, if you just eat meat and fat, and you keep your insulin levels low all the time, now you're a marathon runner. You don't have to carb load, because you use your fat for your energy source, just like we are meant to do, because you don't eat the carbohydrates. So you don't get the high insulin levels. You get low insulin levels. So you burn your own energy. So now you have this runner and he's sitting there and he's used to burning his own fat. So it's already got this fat system going. It's already going. So when he runs, he doesn't have to put anything in his mouth. He can just run. And since he keeps his insulin levels low, he burns fat out of his fat cells. But remember the other thing, when your insulin levels are low, you push fat into your muscle cells. So while you're running, your fat's coming out of your fat cells and going straight into your muscle cells. It's just rewinding. So you're constantly replenishing your muscles with energy, and you're doing it from the fat out of your fat cells. So if you're a carb burner exercising, you're never going to get to your fat because you're constantly keeping your insulin levels high. If you are a carnivore or keto or someone who keeps your insulin levels low, you'll be able to lose a lot of fat during a workout because that's where it's getting your energy, is from the stored fat. And that's exactly what you want to do. So please remember, it's not about losing weight. It's about losing fat. And the only way you can lose fat is to keep your insulin levels low. That's the only way you're going to burn fat out of your fat cells. And the way you keep that low is keep carbohydrates out of your mouth. Okay. Especially ultra processed foods. You should never eat any of that stuff. It's all horrible. Ultra processed grains, fructose and high fructose corn syrup and sugar, and these horrible toxic seed oils and vegetable oils. So definitely stay away from all the box, bottle, bag, can that have the labels on it. Okay. That's one thing. Then when you talk about the natural carbohydrates, you're talking about plants or fruits and vegetables. When you do this, remember, if you really have a lot of weight to lose, you probably shouldn't put anything in your mouth. But at least stick with the plants that grow above the ground. Okay, they call it green leafy plants, but it just means the plants above the ground because they're not going to have as much carbohydrate in them. If you eat the stuff that's below the ground, like potatoes and carrots, that has what's called starch. So those are long chains of glucose. So you're going to be putting a lot of glucose in your mouth when you eat those. So it all depends on where you are. As far as exercising, if you're used to exercising, keep up. It's wonderful. I'm all for you. We work out, we try to work out 4 to 6 times a week. Okay. But if you've never worked out before, this is not the time to do it because your body weight set point will make you tired and make you hungry. So you have to counteract that. Just as I said, the way you counteract that is instead of the hunger, if you eat a lot of meat and fat, that keeps you feeling full for long periods of time. So you don't have to worry about the hunger that this is causing you. And You're also, if you're not working out, then you don't have to worry about the tiredness. Go ahead and sleep. Take your rest. It's very, very important at first until you reset your body weight set point, and then you're going to start losing the fat that you really wanted to lose. So anyway, that's what I have for now. As far as this marathon, and a lot of this information that I got was from a guy by the name of Mark Sisson. And Mark Sisson was actually a keto marathon runner. And so he knows what he's talking about. And the next 2 episodes, I'm going to be going over just a new book that Mark Sisson has out. And we'll talk about in the next episode. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope this helped. I hope I didn't make it, more confusing. But that's all I have for now. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Have a fantastic week. And as always, make simple, healthy choices to live a quality life. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hit the subscribe button below and be sure to tell someone else who may want to change their health path as well. And remember, if you would like to enroll in our new online Thrive Naturally Transformation course to help you reach your new improved health goal, to reverse type 2 diabetes, feel great, and get off medications, we are here to help. Just go to our website, drstevehewlett.com, and click on the Work With Us tab at the top of the page. We truly are here to help you get off medications and start living the vibrant, pain-free life that you would love to live.